Let's start at the very beginning.
Let's start right at the very top. Hi, Mary. How are
Hello.
you? I'm Anthony.
I know. Nice
Can
to
I
meet
can I
you.
jump in before we go to your questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. First, I just want to say I'm kind of irrepressible. I'm a New Yorker. I've had 3 cups of coffee, and it doesn't affect me at night. Now, I'm a New Yorker, and I've been to Kansas. This will be my 3rd or 4th time. And I thought for sure we had screwed it up when I looked at I left my house around 6:45 this morning to get here on time. And I saw I was flying into Missouri. I'm like, God damn it, they booked me into the wrong state. And then I realized, no, I got Missouri in the house in addition to Kansas. So I want to make sure I thank my colleagues who do that work so incredibly well. Then Secretary Sebelius, you remind me what it means to have real leadership at the federal government. You make me wistful of a day when we had people of character and substance heading up our federal government. And so it really is an honor to be with you. To Carla Juarez and Air, I see you in the corner. Really want to thank you for your leadership on behalf of immigrants' rights. And then I will finally close by just the introductory parts to say, I love this affiliate, right? I love the work in Kansas. I have 54 offices. We have 2 in California, 1 in Puerto Rico, 1 in Washington, D.C. That's how you get to 54. And I'm supposed to love all of my affiliates equally. But I will tell you that Micah Kubik is someone I would follow into hell and back. This man, as long as Micah is here, the ACLU of Kansas will have the national office full support. Right. You keep doing the work you're doing. I have been such an admirer of the caliber of this work, doing it in some of the most challenging of circumstances. And I think what's really important for me, and I'll promise I'll be quiet, I know I've had too much coffee, is that, you know, for a lot of folks who work on civil liberties, and a lot of people who live on the coast, they think that the middle of the country is a place where you can't do much. And they're so wrong, right? In a place like Kansas, with the leadership of people like Micah Kubik, you can win abortion rights. You can secure voting rights. You can advance LGBT equality in ways that most folks on the coast do not fully appreciate or apprehend. And you also have a lot of fun doing it. I will say that one of the reasons I'm here is not just because of Micah, it's because of Kobach. Now, you invite me any place where I can kick up some dust in that man's face, I will come. I will come. You know, that trial that we did with Dale Ho, who now is on the federal bench, I watched that. This is what gives me pleasure. I know it's a bit perverse. I'm in the right job. I watched winning that case and that judge giving him such a hard time. And then when he was appointed for a nanosecond on that federal commission on voting and whatnot, and we stopped that also dead in its tracks, I love that. So as you have your future battles with Chris Kobach and his progeny, I'm in, all right? So.
You ready?
I'm ready. Sorry.
No, this is perfect. I mean, actually, when we just met, and I mean, I've obviously known your name forever, and there was just an instant, you know, you're just at ease and personable, and I kind of actually even said, I'm not going to have to really do anything. So I think part of what I want to know is just really like your early beginnings. You know, you already mentioned New York. It was the Bronx.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And you're Puerto Rican.
Puerto Rican.
Tell me about your family, because I really believe that people's background does influence.
I appreciate that, Mary. Thank you for the question. You're making me think about my dad and my mom, who are not alive anymore, but who are with me every day. So before I tell you about my father, let's give a round of applause to the people who served our tables and here. They will go home to their family members. That was my father. My father was from Puerto Rico, finished the 4th grade, was a brilliant man, but I'm not sure I ever saw him write a sentence. I saw him sign his name. And he came to New York City looking for a better life. He was in his 20s, and he went to go work at the Warwick Hotel, and 39 years later, he retired from there. He started out as a janitor, and then when he saw how the hotel was working, he wanted to become a waiter, because a waiter would make more money than the houseman. The houseman was the title. So he filed a union grievance to become a waiter. And he was first declined because he was not allowed to become a waiter. I later on knew a lot more about this because I worked in that same hotel all through college. It was one of the best parts of my college education. I went to Princeton, but my real education was at the Warwick Hotel. And my dad would, after he was turned down from being a banquet waiter, was just like, Antonio, I don't understand. They say my English is not good enough. In banquete, everybody eats chicken. So he's like, my English is good enough for that. And yeah, papi, you're right. And so with his grievance, he became a banquet waiter. We moved out of the projects. We were living in the public housing projects in the Bronx. The projects in the Bronx at one point were economically integrated. There were people who worked and people who were in government assistance. It was white, it was black, it was Puerto Rican. Then it became very bad in the 1970s, where the poverty and crime was much greater. And we were fortunate enough that with my father's promotion to a waiter, we could move. And then my life changed, right? We got our first car. My parents stopped fighting over money. I got to go out and play. We moved out to Passaic County, New Jersey, a kind of a working class neighborhood. And, you know, I think about what my father put through. My mother finished, I think, the 9th grade in New York City. And they always inculcated into me a belief that if you study and you believe in the American dream, you can achieve. And there was no obstacle I felt was too insurmountable for me. I went to a vocational high school. I'll speed it up, otherwise you'll be here all night. But part of the reason what makes me so passionate about the work I do is that I feel like I live this American dream. Like, I have lived a life beyond my wildest dreams. I have been able to find full agency, full achievement of what I'm capable of. And that has happened because this country has opened up opportunities and had institutions and had mechanisms and had social service programs. I am a proud beneficiary of affirmative action, right? I would not have gotten into Princeton if affirmative action had not been in place. I earned my grades. I worked my ass off to get my grades. But affirmative action gave me the chance to compete. And I think about all the programs, whether it's public housing, whether it's public education, whether it's Pell Grants, all the things I say, oh, it's so amazing, now, Anthony Romero, you Princeton, Stanford, I'm on the board at Princeton, what a great achievement. The achievement is not an individual achievement. The achievement is of societal programs that were structured to give boys and girls and people like me a chance. And we are systematically dismantling those programs, my friends. We have a government and a president that is insisting to shut down opportunity, that is trying to dismantle, that is dismantling affirmative action. It's dismantling civil rights enforcement. It's taking apart the social safety nets. It's cutting back all the programs that give opportunities for talented and future generations of people like me to achieve less of a shot. And that's what gets me so riled up about what's going on right now in this country.
No, thank you. I'm the daughter of an immigrant, my father, and my mother was Kansas farm girl, so there you go.
Where was he from?
Mexico City, and got his citizenship after he fought in the war. So a very common path for immigrants. So I hear you on that. How did the ACLU get you? What led you to the ACLU?
I was always an argumentative kid, the nuns. They would say
Guilty.
I learned a lot from them. I learned how to hold my knuckles tighter. But in my family had ever been a lawyer. Somehow I always knew I would be a lawyer. What is he going to grow up to be? I want to be a lawyer, because that's what, if you know how to argue, that's the only job that's good for you, right? So by the time I went to law school, I knew I wanted to do public interest law. And, you know, in our world, it's always figuring out your path is always that's why I love young people and talking with them to help them sort their skill set and their passions. I wanted to work on issues that were going to be directly relevant for people. I didn't just want to do, I had done legal services work up in Harlem for a while, and I felt like that was really meaningful work, but I felt like I was just holding up the breaking dike. I didn't want to just pick an issue or pick a tribe. And so the ACLU for me was this one organization that I didn't have to pick an issue or pick a tribe. That it was about the rights of all people. It was about the rights of people to live with dignity. That you get to decide what is so remarkable about this gift of life and agency you've been given. You get to decide what you speak. You get to decide with whom you associate. You get to decide what God you worship, if any God at all. And the idea of unlocking all that potential, when I feel like I've lived it, I'm like, we got to make sure this is true for everybody. And so the ACLU was always the calling place. And, you know, it's a story they don't put in the official bio, because the official bio is written by people in my comm staff, and they always want to make me look good, so they don't put in the crazy stuff. But after law school, my dream job was the ACLU for a fellowship, a Kirkpatrick fellowship. And I pulled every string, I presented well, I had a new suit on, I bought at Brooks Brothers. And I did not get the job because the donors who had paid for the fellowship, I didn't like her very much. You know? And then, so I came in second. I didn't get the job. Years later, when I came in as the CEO, I meet the same donor. She goes, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." I'm like, "No, we've met before." And that little fellowship with your husband's name on it is I'm not sure we can keep that going anymore, right? No, it's still there. And I'm not that petty, but they hired a very good person. But I found my way back. And when your dream job is your dream job, you just keep going for it. And when I got called by the headhunter saying, you know, the longstanding director of the ACLU is stepping down, would you step forward? I was a bit hesitant because I didn't think they would hire a 35-year-old person who was outside of the organization. I'm the first one in more than 70 years to come from the outside. And luckily, I was able to talk my way into my dream job and finally ended up where I always wanted to be.
Wonderful. Okay. Now that you have your dream job in this, what some people would call a nightmare of a situation, one of the things that I found helpful in just kind of doing a little bit of background research on you was when you spoke about the 3 buckets in terms of the role of the ACLU in this moment. Can you take us through those? And I guess maybe does it make sense to start with modern McCarthyism?
Sure. You have to organize yourself. I find my job is to kind of keep up with all the work that I can of the ACLU and what's going on in Washington. And it's blinding for me. And it's my full-time job. So I just want to say to all of you that if you're feeling overwhelmed and the assault and you feel like you just want to turn the TV set off or put the newspaper down or shut the laptop and just disconnect, I totally understand and get it. This is not normal, right? This is a government at war with at least half its people. This is a president that is wanton and reckless in undoing a system of checks and balances that have served us for hundreds of years. This is an administration that is populated by enablers and co-conspirators who all deserve to be charged with RICO charges because of what they are enabling at this level. And so if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed, you're paying attention, right? And if you need a break from it, you can take a break from it. But you got to come back. I have never seen a moment quite like this. I started the week before 9/11. I thought the war on terror. I thought the policies of George Bush. I thought the policies of Dick Cheney were all a problem. I'd take them back in a New York minute if I could. Because this is really that much worse. And so when I organize what's at play, the 3 buckets, right? These are the issues that concern me at the ACLU. And I think one thing that's important is that the ACLU not swing at every pitch. We're not the anti-Trump liberties union. There are many things that are going wrong in federal government that are not my purview, right? The closing down of USAID, the efforts to purge federal government workers from the workplace, the hyper-aggressive efforts of Elon Musk and his Doge machine to plow through congressional appropriations and agencies. All of that troubles me as an American, but they're not civil liberties concerns per se. So I've been really emphatic at my organization to say we can't swing at every pitch. We have to be part of a larger ecosystem of organizations that are doing this work. I will refer clients and issues, donors, and relationships to other groups. ACLU, I think, is a critical responder, so please support us. You have to stick with us. It's not how large a check you can write. It is the fact that you are engaged and supporting our work that is the most significant. Even if it's $10, we will put it to good use, I promise you. Half of the organization's budget comes from the ordinary rank and file, right? I spent a lot of time courting the rich. I'm on my way to Silicon Valley, God help me. But the half of this budget comes from the ordinary rank and file folks. So the 3 buckets.
$100, right?
$100.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought that was astounding. And people don't realize that often about fundraising. It's grassroots.
And then you don't have to play Mother May I, right? Then you don't have to ask the rich who, if they're worried about being targeted by President Trump, and some of them are very much afraid. There are at least Mr. Blank, Silicon Valley, was a contributor in Trump 1.0, is not now. Ms. So-and-so, not a contributor now, was once. Mr. Number 3, Mr. Number 4, Mr. Number 5. 5 big Silicon Valley philanthropists who are missing in action, who were donors to us the first time around. That's why the people in this room matter, because we can write them off if we've got you, right? So, the 3 buckets of what I'm concerned about. First bucket. This government is really intent on targeting individuals with whom it disagrees, right? This is what I call the modern day McCarthy, right? And you as a journalist know this better than anyone. The idea that they are trying to shut down anyone who disagrees with them. And then you can put on that list the law firms that had the audacity to challenge him in the first Trump administration. You can put on that list the activists who are fighting for Palestinian rights, like Mahmoud Khalil and Rameza Ozturk, who are our clients. You can put on that list the former Attorney General, Comey, the New York Attorney General, Letitia James. You can put on that list the former U.S. Attorney Prosecutor, Jack Smith. This idea that we are enabling retribution with government power, targeting individuals because they have the audacity to disagree with this president is chilling. There is probably no greater challenge to the work of our organization than this first bucket. And if you minimize the challenges of this moment, then I need to spend more time with you after we're done here. Because this concern around the targeting of political dissidents is really number 1 of concern. Number 2 bucket is the targeting of politically weak groups to score cheap political points with the MAGA base, right? They have to feed that MAGA base. They have to throw the red meat. And the way they do that is by taking away the rights and liberties of groups that cannot rely upon the political process to secure their rights. So there I put LGBT, especially trans people, and there I put the immigrant community, right? Where you have Stephen Miller promising and delivering on a massive deportation machine that will change the fabric of our country. right? Where they are picking up and summarily deporting through all sorts of changes in policies where they want to return this country, quote, return, never been this way, but they see it, return this country to a country that doesn't have the immigrant elements in our midst. And that is fundamental for us. It's probably, of the 183 legal actions that we have filed against the Trump administration, which is in less than a year, that's quite a bit. Almost half of them are in the context of immigrants' rights. So the big blockbuster ones, and now go to bucket number 3. The two big blockbusters, birthright citizenship. Now, how dare this president, within 2 hours of him taking office, he signs a piece of parchment that he believes with his signature he can undo the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. I mean, it's just the audacity. It's also in the statute. It was also codified subsequently. I mean, birthright citizenship is hallowed ground. It is how America solved its original sin of chattel slavery, right? It is how we converted the sons and daughters of slaves and made them American citizens. It is how this nation of immigrants became a nation of one people under law. And if we allowed this president to undo birthright citizenship, we will put in place a mechanism for intergenerational stigma and discrimination that will change the very fabric of this country. And that's why I was incredibly proud that within 2 hours of him signing the parchment, we sued in court, right? And our case is now pending before the U.S. Supreme Court. It's being conferenced in a couple of weeks. You know, this is not for attribution of their journalists in the room. I'm sure that case will be granted cert by the Supreme Court. It will be an ACLU case. It will be an ACLU lawyer who will argue that case. It will become the inflection point, right? This will be argued some point in February, March, April. Decision will come down in June. I went to the earlier argument on birthright citizenship. So this will be an inflection point, and it will be, how fantastic will it be when we knock out his first executive order in June of 2026. Now you do the math, right? 4 or 5 months before the midterms, right? There comes an inflection point. The pendulum's got to stop swinging and then begins to swing back. And I think our litigation around birthright citizenship will be exactly that. Okay. The third bucket, and I'll be really quick, is a system of checks and balances that is being undone. The idea that they will target judges who dare review their cases. The way they say that these federal judges don't have jurisdiction over our cases. The way they have trampled over the prerogative of Congress in its appropriations. The way they have cudgeled the independent media, right? I think of independent media as an essential part of a system of checks and balances, right? The fourth estate. And it is shameful how these media companies have completely capitulated. I mean, shame on ABC News for paying the extortionist in chief money for a defamation case they would have readily won in front of any judge. They decided it'd be better to pay him off, right? And that's what gives me the chill down my spine, is when you have all of these folks who know that they have their rights. These corporations, they have good lawyers. They know this is a slam dunk case. Like the law firms. You know, when the executive order said, oh, Paul Weiss can't go into a federal court building. What? This is not Mar-a-Lago. This is a public courthouse. If you have a case and you file a case and you're a lawyer for a client, guess what? You get to go to the courthouse. You can't bar us from the courthouse. But Paul Weiss decided it was better to pay $100 million to the extortionist in chief than to fight a case they would have rarely have won. Now, when you have powerful institutions like this deciding to play along, to get along, then we have to get really worried. And that's why these three buckets for me are the ones where I continue to sort everything that comes down the pike and see what we need to do about it.
Okay. The other one that I'd like you to expand upon a little bit that I've heard you say that, like birthright citizenship, that there is a real belief that that can be won and will be won. The other one is marriage equality. Can you explain that, of why you feel more positive about that being solid?
I think with marriage equality, partly because it was a recent decision of the Supreme Court, partly also because it was codified in statute. Remember, this is what the Democrats did when Biden became president. And I think that there would be just such an uproar among American citizens. I don't think they go there. Certainly there are elements of the Trump administration that wish to go there. And certainly they are, they're just biding their time, and they might come back to it longer term, but I don't think it's where they ultimately succeed in the short term.
Okay. Can you also expand a little bit about how the ACLU isn't reactive? That there was so much planning even before the election, and all of those alliances, that even how you decide who sues.
Yeah. Part of being a neurotic New Yorker is that it really has paid off, right? This part of my job description has made me, I'm not happier, but I'm more effective, I think. We spent months and months and months prepping for the possibility of a second Trump presidency. We learned from the first time around, where we were the only organization that had a kind of a plan to fight Donald Trump in 2016. It was good that we had a plan, because we could hit play from after we were all surprised. I was surprised. I didn't think he would win in 2016. This last time around, I thought he would win. And so we were much better prepared. We literally have hundreds of pages of documents that we had prepared. Some of it we published, much of it we didn't. So birthright citizenship, the way we figured that out is that we knew we wanted to challenge an executive order on birthright citizenship. And we figured out which jurisdictions we wanted to sue in. We wanted to sue in the First Circuit. It's New Hampshire, Massachusetts. It's a very good circuit for the composition of the judiciary, and the jurisprudence is very, very well developed there. It's like the Ninth Circuit, except the Ninth Circuit is like LA traffic, right? You just sit there forever because there's so many cases in the Ninth Circuit. So you rather file in the First Circuit. Then you had to find clients who would have standing. So we found an Indonesian immigrant group in New Hampshire with members of their organization who were pregnant, whose children would be born after inauguration, who might be stripped of birthright citizenship. That's the level of preparation. Then you start drafting documents on behalf of these clients. And I got a phone call right before inauguration from someone who still talks to me in that world, and said, "Yeah, we're gonna roll with birthright citizenship." I'm like, "Really? You think you can undo the 14th Amendment?" So then I put the phone down, went to the office, and said, "People, we've got to get this lawsuit ready. It's got to be ready in prime time." It was literally on Inauguration Day. It was literally Martin Luther King Day, right? It's a federal holiday. I told the lawyers, I'd like, figure out how to file a lawsuit electronically. Even if the courts are not open, you've got to file it within hours of him signing this executive order, because you've got to send the signal that we're on the case.
Okay. And to kind of expand a little bit, we kind of want to underscore that it's not just legal cases, the work of the ACLU. And the term that I've learned is integrated advocacy.
Yeah. The litigation is a tool, right? We're not here to just further the law. We are here to make a difference. And this is where I think the ACLU of Kansas has really given us such a great playbook. I mean, Micah and his team, they play a remarkable game of in the courts, in the legislature, in the electoral process, in the streets, right? This is what When you won that ballot referenda on abortion here, and you were able to secure that in a place like Kansas by changing hearts and minds in Kansas, it really does underscore the importance of getting your message broader than the efforts that Mike and his colleagues have done. The power of the ACLU agenda is to be bigger than any one political party. Voting rights was one of the great successes of the Republican Party. You had people like Sensenbrenner and even Ronald Reagan. And there once was a time when you could have an alignment of interests across the political spectrum. There once was a time, even George Bush, not my favorite president, but getting closer every day. He was much better on immigration than this president. Remember boot diplomacy with Vicente Fox and George Bush trying to legalize a pathway for citizenship? I think those elements within the Republican Party continue to exist, and we need to find a way to harvest those relationships. So integrated advocacy is about lobbying, litigation, organizing, and educating the public. And I think that's an essential part of what we're doing, especially right now.
Thank you. Yeah. You actually just touched on something I wanted to have you elaborate on a little bit more. I think the ACLU is often misunderstood. I worry a lot about false narratives starting, and frankly, I see how they start and take off through media. One of them is that you don't support more conservative causes, and you kind of touched to that. I think the case with the NRA is the one that you've mentioned before.
So the NRA was a case that they're no friends of mine, right? The NRA. So when the NRA came to me and said, we have this case going to the Supreme Court where Governor Cuomo was trying to use the power of the state to shut down business ties between any of the insurance companies or underwriters or other businesses who were doing business with the NRA. He threatened them with losing business with the state of New York. You know, if Governor Cuomo can try to shut down a lawful group like the NRA using state power to cudgel them, what is to stop DeSantis doing the same thing to us in Florida, or Abbott in Texas, or any of the other states that we're in? So they came and asked whether we would represent them. And, you know, I like to drive a hard bargain. That's part of my job. I'm like, okay, I'm the lead lawyer. We make all decisions on your case. I get to criticize your position on gun control. We are calling all the shots, so take it or leave it. And I was surprised that they took it. And so we represented the NRA in the U.S. Supreme Court. Our top lawyer, David Cole at the time, argued that case in the Supreme Court. We won that case 9-0, with Justice Sotomayor writing the majority opinion. And I think it's really important for the ACLU to stand up for principles for everybody. These values and these rights attached to everyone, not just our friends and allies. These principles have to mean something. They have to be applied equally. And so we have a number of other cases. We have some cases now we're working on with Republicans who are trying to challenge efforts to purge them from the polls. We take up those cases, especially in blue jurisdictions. There's one case of an attorney general in a blue state that has gone after trying to subpoena the membership records of an anti-abortion group. That would be also anathema. We think that organizations have a right to keep their membership lists confidential so their members don't get harassed. And so we will spend the energy to defend these principles for everyone.
Thank you. I was glad that you spoke about how people are tired and feel beaten down. And that's what I'd like you to maybe, close your remarks with in terms of give us some hope. Like, what do you want people to do? And like, how do you, I think I hear this all the time. People say, I don't want to read the news. And they do just turn it off. But there is a real self-censorship that's occurring within institutions and people. And then there's also a lot of people shutting down and tuning out. And as much as you want to understand that and people's need to take care of themselves, there's a danger to that.
And I completely understand it. And that's why your support of institutions matter, right? You will get tired. I will get tired. We may not have the ability to kind of continue on this for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. But the one thing I am sure of is that even if I flatline because of being driven utterly to the brink and back, I know that this organization will continue to do the right thing going forward. Institutions have a staying power, have an ability to magnify individual voices. Micah's really great. I'm pretty good. We are only as powerful, as effective as we are because we have an institution magnifying our abilities. And so that's why building and supporting and contributing and being a part of or volunteering with institutions that have the staying power. Because one thing I guarantee you, I don't know, I think we win birthright citizenship. I think we win the Alien Enemies Act case. I think the pendulum will begin to swing back in our favor. You saw the marches across the country, the No Kings marches. We were deeply involved with organizing it. We will continue to be organizing it. But the one thing I can assure you is that even if we lose in the next year or 2 or 3, our organization, your ACLU, will remain on this case for as long as it takes. Whether it's 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, every single person who is there now who will be replaced by another zealot who will keep fighting, 2,400 people will continue to be this juggernaut for justice. And that's what you've got to believe in. And even if we don't ourselves get to or see the promised land, I am confident that we will get there because America is a great place. The values, the ideals, they're just the right ones. They will resonate. They still have power. They still have salience. People of good heart and mind will say, that is worth fighting for. And even if we lose in the shorter term, I think victory is only ours in the longer term. So thank you all very much for indulging me.
Okay. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you.